Welcome back to the John and Linetia show. Linetia, you got any tips for me?
You're not doing any dancing. And I don't have
Wait a
any
minute.
singles.
Wait, you would tip me if I was dancing. Okay, next show, I'm getting a Speedo getting a pole in here, and you're going to be tipping me, baby.
But you forgot I work for this company, so I don't have any cash. Plus, we do a podcast for free. So.
Yes.
But speaking of tips, thank you for bringing that subject up. Seems that there is a new IRS policy, and it's affecting restaurants.
Right.
So, with the new policy, the restaurants are now thinking about, or some have already started to tell their waiters and waitresses no more tips. Okay.
Well, yeah, and I think it really starts because the policy, it'll classify a lot of waiters' tips as taxable income.
Taxable income,
instead of, because self-reported tips is kind of a separate thing. Mm-hmm. And the policy really stems from restaurants that automatically add, if you've got a large party, they automatically add, whatever it is,
like 18%
to your bill and all that. And the IRS is looking at that and saying, wait a minute. I mean, tips are tips. Tips are supposed to be for good service. Now, the automatic adding it really is a way in which to make sure people don't screw
people over.
The servers over. But the problem is if it's compulsory, then it's the IRS looks at it and says, this is taxable income. And, the servers have their regular income from the restaurants, their check.
Which isn't a lot.
Right, and their tips. And so the IRS is saying, no. If the restaurant's going to make people tip, that goes into the regular income pile. And so the restaurants then have to decide, are looking at it and going, well, wait a minute, then we have to then make sure that there's enough taxes withheld, and also then they've got to calculate every week, like new checks and stuff. So the restaurants, of course, a lot of them just kind of being lazy about things. They're just like, well, wait a minute, maybe it's time to stop with optional tipping and essentially raise prices for everything and just leave tipping out of it.
Okay, so here's the debate. We got a situation where we have restaurants who want to stop it because of taxable income, but we also have people who are saying, no, let's still continue to tip people because people need this kind of money so that they can have a life.
Right, but I think, on the one hand, you could look at it, and of course, in any kind of cash business, like when you were a dancer, and you'd get all those dollar bills.
I told you not to tell anybody about that.
You'd get all those dollar bills.
Why do you always want to put me on blast?
Everything in the champagne room with those 20s. Anyway, with tipping, and of course, it's well known. I mean, generally people don't report to the IRS all of those cash tips. So the problem here is that for a lot of servers, even if the restaurants were to raise prices and then raise their, or give them raises enough tantamount to, their income, let's say, they also know, oh, wait a minute, more of my income is really going to be taxed, and they might actually make a little less because they're not getting all the cash. So it's like there's pros and cons on all of it. I personally, I think that it would be a good idea. I kind of think that the whole tipping has gotten just out of control.
In a sense of people aren't tipping enough, or people are over tipping, or a little bit of both?
I think you've got way too many people expecting tips for things. Okay. And then you've got the problem of, well, what is enough and what's not. When I was growing up, I remember hearing 10% tip, 10% tip, 10% tip. These days, basically, it's a 15% tip is thought of as a good tip, or 20% if you really had good service. Let me tell you, you go somewhere and you get a meal and it's $100. That's a $20 tip. That's significant.
That's
okay.
significant.
10% was one thing. 15 in 20. Yeah. So it's getting to a certain point. I mean, at one point, these people, these servers, we'll call them those people. They shouldn't be living their lives subsisting mostly on tips. So I'm kind of in favor of if a restaurant wants to say, hey, welcome to the restaurant. There's no tipping here, or tipping is not required because we're paying our servers a livable wage.
Right. So when you're out, you go out to eat or whatever,
Burger King.
Yeah.
Wendy's.
Right. Yeah. Do you tip on basically the service, or do you say, okay, well, even if the service wasn't that bad, do you still give the 15 to 20% of the 10%?
Yeah, I mean, I usually will try to give 20%.
Okay.
If service sucked, then I might go down to 10%. Okay. If service was then I might go to 15. Mm-hmm. I never give 0.
Right.
Service would really have to be so
bad.
Horrid,
bad.
But it's basically I go and it's a benefit of the doubt, and if you suck, you're going to get less.
Yeah. I usually start at 20.
Mm-hmm. And then go up.
No.
Oh.
I start at 20. And then if I see something, like, okay, well, I asked you for water 5 times and you haven't brought it to me, and I'll start taking off $1 from that point. But I always think about these people are trying to make a living too. And I don't know if I would feel comfortable if if I'm at Red Lobster and they say tipping is not required, I would probably still give a tip. So knowing me,
yeah, but it wouldn't be 20%, would it?
It just depends what kind of service I got. Even if they are getting a livable,
if the
wage
place said
from that,
you don't need to give a tip, you would?
I probably would still give
Why?
something, Just feel like you're
maybe a Red Robin gift card or something like that.
Red Robin gift card? No, that's what you want.
Red Lobster, Red Robin.
I probably would still give something. I really appreciate you. Man, I guess the idea of someone serving me in a sense, I feel like you're doing a service to me. It's customer service still, and I want to give you something, Now, I have had situations where it was like the food sucks, you suck as a waiter and waitress, if you go into, forgotten in a restaurant. Anyway, they have like stars on their apron, and a 5-star person is like the top, and then a 1-star person is like a rising star. And I sometimes watch those kind of people. It's like, let's see if they're going to bring my biscuits out. Let's see if they're going to...
Biscuits.
And I watch. And then I judge that way. I go, okay, well, this is a new person. I'm going to cut them a break. But if it's someone who has been there and they have like this 5-star across their chest, I'm expecting them to be at a 20% level. I'm just saying. So, I don't know. It's kind of a big debate because you feel like, well, even if they do put... give the waiters, waitresses a living wage, you still feel like you should give them something compared to, hey, forget them. I heard one person say, I won't have to figure out the math anymore. It's not that hard to figure out how much to give on a tip.
Well, yeah. And a lot of times, even on the bill, they'll put it down there.
Yeah.
What's 15, what's 18, what's 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, depending on the restaurant.
Right.
Depending on the restaurant.
Yeah.
But still, I don't... I guess it's still up for debate, so I don't know. I feel like you should give them something regardless, but don't give them $2. Give them more than that. Yeah. $3, $4, $5, so they can get a value meal from McDonald's.
Yeah, especially all those dollar, like you got all those dollar bills at home that have all that body glitter and men's cologne.
Why do you continually put me on blast? I told you to keep that a secret about my other life. I don't know why you keep talking about that. Man,
it's the only reason you want to keep tipping is you need to get rid of all those crumpled up dollar bills.
Else to you about my personal life.
The smell of shame.
And I have pictures I could have shown you.
Yes.
No, never mind.
Forget it. Next podcast. That'll be in our Saturday morning podcast.
No, it'd be more like Saturday evening, right?
Okay, sure. Sure. John and Linetia, After Dark.
Thanks for listening to the John and Linetia Show.